Hello students. Welcome to this energetic session where we are going to explore Unit 1, Introduction to Software Testing. This unit is the foundation of everything you will study ahead about quality and testing in the software world. These are the most important and expected questions for your in-semester exams, and I promise, after this session, you'll feel confident and fully prepared. So let's begin this exciting journey into the world of software quality and testing. Let's begin with our first question. Define software quality. List and explain core components of quality. Software quality refers to how well a software system meets its functional and non-functional requirements. It is not just about working correctly, but also about being reliable, secure, maintainable, and user-friendly. The core components of quality include functionality, which is about what the software does, reliability, which tells us how stable the software is during execution, usability, which focuses on how easy and pleasant the software is to use, efficiency, which deals with performance and resource usage, maintainability, which is the ease of making changes or fixing issues, and portability, which is the ability of the software to run on different platforms. Now let's move on to our next important topic, objectives of software testing. From this topic, we can expect questions like, what are the key objectives of software testing? The main objectives of software testing are to detect defects, improve quality, ensure reliability, validate functionality, and verify performance. Testing helps in identifying bugs before the software reaches the customer. It ensures that the software behaves as expected in all conditions. It also checks for security, user experience, and stability, making the final product trustworthy and successful. Now let's move on to our next important topic, testing versus debugging. From this topic, we can expect questions like, what is the difference between testing and debugging? Testing is the process of identifying defects in software, usually done by testers. It involves running the software and checking for expected outputs. Debugging, on the other hand, is done by developers to fix the defects found during testing. It involves finding the cause of the error and correcting it. Testing shows that there is a problem. Debugging solves the problem. Now let's move on to our next important topic, quality assurance and testing. From this topic, we can expect questions like, differentiate between quality assurance and testing with examples. Quality assurance is a process-oriented approach that ensures that proper procedures are in place during software development to prevent defects. Testing is product-oriented and focuses on identifying defects in the actual software product. For example, quality assurance may include process audits and training, while testing includes writing test cases and executing them to find bugs. Now let's move on to our next important topic, defect life cycle. From this topic, we can expect questions like, explain defect life cycle with the help of diagram. The defect life cycle shows the journey of a bug from discovery to closure. It starts with the new status when the tester reports the bug. Then it moves to assigned, where a developer starts working on it. If the developer fixes it, the status changes to fixed. Then the tester retests the defect, and if it works fine, the bug is closed. If the issue still exists, it goes back to reopened. This cycle continues until the bug is resolved. Imagine a circular flow where the bug travels through stages like new, assigned, fixed, retested, and closed, which helps the team track the status clearly. Now let's move on to our next important topic, total quality management. From this topic, we can expect questions like, describe total quality management principles of continual improvement. Total quality management is a philosophy that focuses on continuous improvement in all aspects of the organization. Its principles include customer focus, where everything is aimed at satisfying customer needs, employee involvement, where everyone is responsible for quality, process approach, where every step of development is monitored and improved, and decision-making based on data. Continual improvement means always looking for ways to make processes better, faster, and more efficient. Now let's move on to our next important topic, statistical process control. From this topic, we can expect questions like, how is statistical process control used in software quality management? Statistical process control uses statistical methods to monitor and control the software development process. Tools like control charts help visualize process variation over time. If the process stays within control limits, it is considered stable. If it goes outside the limits, it indicates a problem. This helps detect issues early and maintain consistent quality. Now let's move on to our next important topic, cultural changes in quality management. From this topic, we can expect questions like, discuss the impact of cultural changes on quality management in software organizations. Cultural changes impact how quality is managed. If the culture encourages collaboration, openness to feedback, and responsibility, then quality improves naturally. But if the culture promotes fear or blame, employees may hide defects. A culture of quality empowers teams to care about the product and follow best practices, which leads to better outcomes. Now let's move on to our next important topic, PDCA cycle. From this topic, we can expect questions like, explain PDCA cycle. The PDCA cycle stands for plan, do, check, act. In the planning phase, we set goals and decide what to do. In the doing phase, we implement the plan. In the checking phase, we evaluate results. And in the acting phase, we make changes based on the evaluation. This cycle is repeated continuously for improvement. Now let's move on to our next important topic, benchmarking. From this topic, we can expect questions like, what is benchmarking in software quality? Explain with suitable metrics. Benchmarking is the process of comparing software performance, practices, and results with industry standards or best practices. For example, if your software's average bug count is 10 per release and the industry average is 5, then you know improvement is needed. Metrics used in benchmarking can include defect density, test coverage, and code quality scores. Now let's move on to our next important topic, tools versus techniques. From this topic, we can expect questions like, compare between tools and techniques. Tools are software applications like Selenium or Jira that help in performing tasks such as automation or bug tracking. Techniques are methods or strategies like boundary value analysis or equivalence partitioning used to design and execute tests. Tools support testing activities, while techniques define how testing is done. Now let's move on to our next important topic, views on quality. From this topic, we can expect questions like, define quality as viewed by different stakeholders of software development and usage. Different stakeholders have different views on quality. Developers see quality as code correctness and efficiency. Testers focus on bug-free behavior and coverage. Customers look for ease of use, reliability, and satisfaction. Managers see quality as meeting deadlines and business goals. All these perspectives together define overall software quality. Now let's move on to our next important topic, constraints in quality assessment. From this topic, we can expect questions like, what are the constraints of software product quality assessment? Constraints in assessing quality include limited time, limited resources, lack of complete data, and subjective judgment. Sometimes, different teams have different definitions of quality. Also, measuring some non-functional qualities like usability or maintainability can be challenging. Now let's move on to our next important topic, relationship between quality and productivity. From this topic, we can expect questions like, examine the relationship between quality and productivity. Quality and productivity go hand in hand. If you focus on quality from the beginning, fewer defects will appear later, saving time and effort. This increases productivity. On the other hand, rushing development to increase productivity may cause more bugs, which reduces overall quality. So balanced focus is needed. Now let's move on to our next important topic, software product requirements. From this topic, we can expect questions like, What are the software product requirements to ensure high quality? High-quality software requires clear and complete requirements, proper documentation, robust architecture, code reviews, thorough testing, and user-friendly design. All these help in preventing defects and ensuring the product performs well. Now let's move on to our next important topic, problematic area of SDLC. From this topic, we can expect questions like: explain the problematic area of software development lifecycle. Common problematic areas include unclear requirements, poor communication between teams, changing client needs, lack of testing, and tight deadlines. Identifying these areas early and addressing them with proper planning and communication improves success rate. Now let's move on to our next important topic, SDLC construction. From this topic, we can expect questions like: construct SDLC for any real-life application. Let us take a real-life example of a college attendance system. In the requirement phase, we collect details about how attendance should be recorded. In design phase, we create wireframes and database schema. In development phase, the system is built using code. In testing phase, we verify all features like login, data entry, and reports. In deployment phase, the system goes live. And finally, in maintenance phase, we fix bugs and update features. Now let's move on to our next important topic, types of products. From this topic, we can expect questions like: give classification for different types of products. Software products can be classified into system software like operating systems, application software like almost Word, embedded software like software in washing machines, and web-based software like online banking platforms. Now let's move on to our next important topic, SDLC models. From this topic, we can expect questions like: describe any two software development life cycle models with examples. Two common SDLC models are the waterfall model and agile model. In waterfall, each phase is completed before moving to the next. It is simple and structured. For example, an accounting software for banks may follow waterfall. In agile, work is done in small iterations with continuous feedback. It is suitable for dynamic environments like developing a mobile app. Now let's move on to our next important topic, quality control planning. From this topic, we can expect questions like: plan software quality control with respect to college attendance software. In the quality control plan for college attendance software, we define test plans to check login, data entry, report generation, and performance. We use tools to track defects and monitor metrics like uptime and response time. Regular reviews and feedback from faculty help maintain high quality. Now let's move on to our next important topic, quality objectives. From this topic, we can expect questions like: list and explain quality objectives applicable to software development and usage. Quality objectives include delivering defect-free software, meeting performance standards, ensuring security, supporting maintainability, and achieving user satisfaction. These goals guide the development and testing process. Now let's move on to our next important topic, quality management system structure. From this topic, we can expect questions like: explain the structure of a quality management system in a software environment. A quality management system consists of policies, processes, procedures, and responsibilities required to achieve quality. It includes quality planning, quality assurance, quality control, and continuous improvement. All teams follow defined standards and document every activity. Now let's move on to our next important topic, pillars of quality management system. From this topic, we can expect questions like: write a note on pillars of quality management system. The pillars of a quality management system include customer focus, leadership, employee involvement, process approach, system integration, continual improvement, and evidence-based decision-making. These pillars ensure that quality is built into every stage of development and is not just an afterthought. Ask ChatGPT. Hello students. Welcome to this exciting session where we are diving into Unit 2, Test Planning and Quality Management. This unit is super important for your in-semester exams, and I'm going to walk you through each topic with full energy and clarity, just like we're sitting in class together. So get ready to focus, take notes, and absorb everything like a sponge. Let's start with our first important topic. Explain types of test artifacts. Test artifacts are the various documents and elements produced during the testing life cycle. These include test plans, which outline the scope and objectives of testing, test cases, which are specific conditions to verify the functionality, test scripts, which are step-by-step instructions for automated testing, test data, which is used as input for testing, and defect reports, which record the bugs found during testing. These artifacts help ensure that testing is systematic, traceable, and repeatable. Now let's move on to our next important topic, cost of quality. From this topic, we can expect questions like: justify, I, green money, cost of prevention. 2. Red money, cost of failure. Green money represents the cost invested in preventing defects before they happen. This includes code reviews, training, and process improvement. Spending green money helps avoid expensive problems later. Red money is the cost of failure, which includes fixing bugs after release, customer dissatisfaction, and loss of reputation. It is always better to invest green money early than to pay red money later. Now let's move on to our next important topic, test plan purpose. From this topic, we can expect questions like: what is the purpose of a test plan? Describe the major contents of a test plan. A test plan is a blueprint for the testing process. It outlines what to test, how to test, when to test, and who will do the testing. The major contents include test objectives, scope, test items, features to be tested, features not to be tested, test approach, resource requirements, schedule, and risk management. A clear test plan ensures everyone is on the same page and testing runs smoothly. Now let's move on to our next important topic, test plan versus test strategy. From this topic, we can expect questions like: differentiate between test plan and test strategy. A test plan is project-specific and includes detailed information on what and how testing will be done for that particular project. A test strategy is organization-wide and outlines the general approach to testing applicable to all projects. Think of test strategy as the long-term game plan and the test plan as the matchday strategy. Now let's move on to our next important topic, test policy and strategy. From this topic, we can expect questions like: analyze test policy and test strategy, which is included in test documentation. Test policy is a high-level document that states the organization's commitment to quality and testing standards. Test strategy, on the other hand, defines how testing will be carried out across different projects. It includes testing types, tools, environments, and responsibilities. Both are essential parts of test documentation and guide the test team. Now let's move on to our next important topic, login test cases. From this topic, we can expect questions like: write test cases for login validation. For login validation, test cases include scenarios like entering valid username and password, entering invalid username, entering wrong password, leaving both fields blank, and checking the response when credentials are incorrect. These test cases ensure that the login module works securely and correctly. Now let's move on to our next important topic, entry and exit criteria. From this topic, we can expect questions like: what are the entry and exit criteria of testing? Entry criteria define when testing can start, such as availability of test environment, completed code, and approved test plan. Exit criteria define when testing is complete, like execution of all test cases, zero critical defects, and final test summary report submitted. Entry and exit criteria help ensure readiness and completeness. Now let's move on to our next important topic, test execution schedule. From this topic, we can expect questions like: Explain how to design a test execution schedule with example. A test execution schedule is a timeline that outlines when each set of test cases will be executed. For example, in the first week, you may test the login and registration module. In the second week, you test user profiles and data processing. This schedule helps the team stay organized and track progress. Now let's move on to our next important topic, use case testing. From this topic, we can expect questions like, explain use case testing with one example. Use case testing involves testing the software based on user scenarios. For example, a user logs into a banking app, views account balance, and transfers money. Each step is tested to ensure it works as expected. Use case testing focuses on real-world user behavior. Now let's move on to our next important topic, scenario testing. From this topic, we can expect questions like, what is scenario testing? How does it differ from use case testing? Scenario testing is broader and tests complex interactions and business flows. It includes multiple use cases combined in one test. Unlike use case testing, which focuses on single user goals, scenario testing simulates complete user experiences. For example, from logging in, to placing an order, to making payment. Now let's move on to our next important topic, test efficiency. From this topic, we can expect questions like, explain the test efficiency and defect rejection. Test efficiency measures how well the testing process finds defects. It is calculated by the ratio of defects found during testing to total defects found in production. Defect rejection is when reported issues are not accepted as valid bugs due to incorrect or unclear test steps. Both help improve the quality of the testing process. Now let's move on to our next important topic, test case productivity. From this topic, we can expect questions like, how do you measure test case productivity in software testing? Test case productivity is measured by the number of test cases designed or executed in a given time frame. It helps evaluate team performance and plan resources. For example, if one tester writes 50 test cases in one day, productivity is high. But quality of those test cases is equally important. Now let's move on to our next important topic, configuration management. From this topic, we can expect questions like, define and explain configuration management. Configuration management is the process of handling changes to software documents, code, and other artifacts in a controlled way. It ensures consistency and prevents confusion due to multiple versions. It includes version control, change control, and release management. For example, using tools like Git helps manage code versions. Now let's move on to our next important topic, quality assurance process. From this topic, we can expect questions like, describe quality assurance process. Quality assurance is a process to ensure the product meets quality standards. It involves planning, process definition, audits, and continuous improvement. QA focuses on preventing defects by improving processes, while testing focuses on detecting defects. Both go hand in hand to deliver high-quality software. Now let's move on to our next important topic, risks in test documentation. From this topic, we can expect questions like, list and explain common risks and issues in test documentation. Common risks in test documentation include incomplete test cases, outdated documents, unclear steps, missing test data, and lack of traceability. These issues can lead to missed bugs and confusion. Regular reviews, version control, and detailed documentation help prevent these risks. Now let's move on to our next important topic, cultural changes in quality. From this topic, we can expect questions like, describe cultural changes requirement for quality improvement. Cultural changes for quality improvement include promoting open communication, continuous learning, collaboration between teams, and ownership of quality. Everyone in the team should value and take responsibility for quality. A strong quality culture results in better processes and better software. Now let's move on to our next important topic, importance of quality management. From this topic, we can expect questions like, why is quality management important in software testing? Quality management ensures that the final product meets customer expectations and is free of defects. It reduces rework, improves customer satisfaction, and saves cost. Without proper quality management, software may fail or disappoint users. So it plays a central role in software testing. Now let's move on to our next important topic, best practices in quality. From this topic, we can expect questions like, what are the best practices to maintain quality in software testing and development? Best practices include defining clear requirements, following coding standards, conducting reviews, writing effective test cases, automating repetitive tasks, tracking metrics, and continuous learning. Following these practices ensures that quality is built into every phase of development and testing.